Back with me is Greg Ehrbar, the author of Hanna-Barbera, The Recorded History, an extraordinary study of the studio that I think we don't necessarily think about along with all the big Hollywood studios, but we should because they were so prolific. And the next film we're going to watch is called The Man Called Flintstone. So
Yes.
let's talk about why Hanna-Barbera made this film as a film.
Yeah, and it is a feature film. It is not edited together episodes, though there are episodes in the Flintstone series that are similar. In particular, there's the Stonefinger one, and there's the Madam Yes.
Because it's a spy parody.
It was a spy parody,
yeah.
which everyone was doing.
Yeah.
And this was, like Hey There, It's Yogi Bear, done on a slightly bigger scale, maybe not quite the budget, because Hanna-Barbera, this was 2 years later. And the Flintstones had completely done its 6-year run. And over that 6-year run, they learned a lot, and the industry changed again. The Flintstones is probably the most important animated sitcom. It's not just the first animated, but one of the most important series in television history. Because it isn't just a matter of taking 6 or 7 minutes and multiplying it by 3 or 4. Hannah said, yeah, we were looking at what was the right show to get us into the marketplace of primetime. It had to be a show that fit into what primetime television was then. And they landed on the Flintstones for several reasons. One was that they had that wonderful way of coming up with these mechanical objects that were operated by animals.
Yes.
That's where the idea started flowing. Because with a half-hour animated sitcom, you can't just have dialogue. You have to build a story that has visuals as well as clever dialogue. So they did have trouble at first finding writers who knew how to think visually. Some of their story artists wrote the scripts right on the board, and they transposed them into scripts for the actors to use. But bringing in television writers, it's a special knack. Didn't mean all of them couldn't do it.
Right.
But it took a different set of muscles.
That makes sense. It's a hybrid of these things that people had to learn. Yeah.
And if you watch a given Flintstones, especially in the middle of its run, you will see how they constantly went back and forth. And I don't think there's anyone on any of the current primetime shows that would deny the Flintstones was breakthrough. And it really should be on the lists of 100 greatest of all time because it changed entertainment.
Yes.
So that became their crown jewel. And the Flintstones also was very successful with merchandise. They had everything with Flintstones. And they tried next with Top Cat. Terrific show, great cast, snappy writing. After that was the Jetsons. And that show was only 24 episodes. It was TV's first color broadcast on ABC. And it was against like Lassie and other family shows. And ABC had gotten to that point by 65, 66, where they were discovering that in live action, and if you remember the 60s, you had Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie and Mr. Ed and Flying Nun. They found that they could do cartoony things with live action for $10,000 to $20,000 less per episode than a cartoon could. But the Flintstones ushered in the fantasy sitcom because there had not been a fantasy sitcom since Topper in the early 50s.
Wow.
So 60 is Flintstones, 61 is My Favorite Martian and Mr. Ed. It was always about how can we get return on investment.
Yeah, of course.
And that's why Hanna-Barbera didn't so much fail in primetime. It's that the television industry realized something, and Saturday morning was where they were going to go. And the Man Called Flintstone came there. What's great about Man Called Flintstone is it does have a nice scope. They go to Europe. And when I was telling you about how you've got to keep it visual, one thing to notice in Man Called Flintstone was the song, The Sounds of Paris. The song that you see is like a Roadrunner cartoon because the villains are trying to do something not nice while this happy, peppy song is playing. So juxtaposition, all of that was thought about. The other thing to note about the songs in this film is Hanna-Barbera made some of the greatest opening titles ever. Their talent for doing that was extended into the vignettes within the musical number. A lot of graphics, a lot of cool stuff. And that was not done in features at the time. That was Hanna-Barbera's style, but Walt Disney features didn't really do that much except for the March of the Cards and Alice in Wonderland and the Pink Elephants on Parade. So this is years before Beauty and the Beast had that incredible graphic thing. And then I Can't Wait to Be King, Just Can't Wait to Be King, had so much graphic and so much That was unusual for Disney, but
Yes.
in Hanna-Barbera, that's just what they did.
Wow. It's just amazing to think about the influence that they
Yeah.
had. Yes. So let's watch the film. Thank you so much, Greg.
You're welcome.
From 1966, here is The Man Called Flintstone. Back with me to discuss the film we just watched, The Man Called Flintstone, is author Greg Ehrbar, who wrote the book, Hanna-Barbera, The Recorded History. So please talk about the voice actors and the singing voices that we hear in this film.
Well, first of all, you've got Alan Reed as Fred Flintstone. And one of the contributions Alan Reed made to television animation was when he auditioned for Fred, he insisted that the voice should be a character, but much closer to a natural voice than most cartoons had. This had to be characters you started to identify with, that you laughed and cried with. He said, I want to do this more like my natural voice. And at first, you know, I think they went back and forth, but they agreed. And if you look at Bob's Burgers, Family Guy, The Simpsons, there is a little bit more of a speaking to the way most of those characters speak. And I think I would credit the great Alan Reed for that, you know.
Yeah.
And then you've got Mel Blanc as Barney. I think my only issue with The Man Called Flintstone is I would have wished Barney was there sooner. And Mel Blanc could sing beautifully, as evidenced in The Rabbit of Seville and What's Opera Doc. Alan Reed had a lot of trouble staying in pitch. And if you watch the episode Christmas Flintstone of the Flintstones, his voice was adorable and charming, and the songs were written for that. These songs, once again, required a little bit more. And Henry Corden, a veteran actor who goes all the way back to like the 40s, and he was Fred's voice on records when Alan Reed was not available
I see.
in 65. So when they went into 66 and they needed Fred to sing, Henry could sound so much like Alan singing that it was hard to tell. Now, their voices speaking were very different. So he is singing in that particular instance. And then you've got other wonderful voices. This is a who's who. Jean Vanderpyle, of course, as Wilma. She was always Wilma. She was very protective of Wilma. She insisted on being Pebbles as well. And she said, I don't usually insist, but Pebbles was going to be me.
Okay.
And she did Wilma's voice throughout the rest of her life. Then you had June Foray, the great June Foray as Tanya, who had the eyes in the hat, you know, and Janet Waldo doing incidental voices, Harvey Korman right before the Carol Burnett show. He had just come off the Flintstones doing The Great Gazoo.
Yes.
So he was Chief Boulder. The great Paul Frees, doing multiple voices, including the villain, the Green Goose. And I kind of figured out who the Green Goose was when I first saw it, mostly because it was Paul Frees doing the voice.
The voice, yes.
You know, and I thought, he's too versatile. He's going to be the Green Goose. But it didn't matter. This was just a spy romp that kids love, those kind of things. And they took that into a Hanna-Barbera world. And they had already started doing it, so it was no surprise.
Yes.
But it was a bigger production than a television movie was.
That makes sense.
So it has a very special place in my heart because every time they showed the clipped together, over-edited grindhouse print at the Saturday matinee, I was there.
You were there. You were there to see it.
Seeing that,
I love that
kind of artwork on a big screen.
Yeah.
You know, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a terrific film.
It is. Thank you so much, Greg.
You're very welcome.
Stay right here because coming up next, we have a very special holiday film by Hanna-Barbera.
Next on TCM, A Christmas Story, then Anchors Away, and later, Dangerous When Wet. Tom and Jerry bring out the best in Esther tonight.